VJ Sarullo has just finished his first year as Staples High School's athletic director. Came to Westport last spring after 10 years at Jonathan Law High School in Milford. And VJ has rejuvenated Staples Athletic Department. You've boosted its social media presence, developed a leadership program, and been a visible presence at pretty much every sport. VJ now bleeds record blue. So welcome, VJ, to 06880, the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you arrived last March, and within a couple of days, you were at Foxwoods watching the boys basketball team in the state championship. Then in the spring, the lacrosse team won the state title again. Congratulations. You got the magic touch.
Yeah, I think the best thing I do is just get out of the way and be able to watch everybody do their job. But it was definitely a great opening experience for me.
So what was it like moving from a school with, a smaller school with fewer sports to the behemoth that is Staples High School?
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. I mean, we had 25 sports at Jonathan Law and about 800 kids in the school. We have more student athletes at Staples High School than we had total kids at Jonathan Law, and we have 39 sports. And when I first came down here, 14 in the spring, and looking at the calendar on it. Go ahead.
And that's varsity, and then sports have junior varsity and freshman.
Right. So we have 14 programs in the spring, but many of those programs have 2 or 3 levels. So looking at the daily calendar and comparing it to what my daily calendar was previous, I was like, wow, how am I going to get to everything, But it's great. And it's the diversity of offerings that we have really is great for our student athletes, between girls water polo and sailing and the traditional baseball and lacrosse. There's something for everybody, which is great. And I really enjoyed last spring, getting around and to see all the practices and the games and, meeting all the people. I think it couldn't have gone better to have that many sports and to meet so many people and really, have everybody make me feel so welcome down here in Westport.
Have you been to a sailing meet?
I've been, not yet this year. Last year, yes, I got to one. You don't really get to see that much as I found out. I got to see everybody when they're going out, and I get to see everybody when they come back in, but you don't really know what's going on in the distance, but I was able to take a couple pictures and but it's and that's the other thing too is, we offer so many sports that I was not familiar with before coming down here, sailing being one, water polo. What I knew about water polo was, I watch it in the Olympics every 4 years, or as I said to my sailing coach, the only thing I know about sailing is I shouldn't do it. So, but that part of it is just being able to learn all of these different sports and everything that comes with it has been great also.
So each one really has its own culture.
Oh, no doubt about it. Again, the sailing, the camaraderie and the teamwork of being on a boat. So yes, they have their own culture, but at the same time, you see the teamwork aspect in different ways, which is really awesome to see. So, baseball is kind of an individual sport in a team atmosphere. Lacrosse is a team sport. Everybody's has to be in sync for things to work. Sailing, the same thing, right? Multiple kids in a boat. So everyone's they have their great culture and their bonding inside the sport, and the teamwork works in unique ways in all of our sports.
Ski meet. Have you been to a ski meet?
I have been to, I was up at Mount Southington this year, made my way up there, found my boots. I'm not a skier, so I found my boots deep in the closet there because we haven't really had any snowstorms the last couple of years where I have to use the snowblower and get out there. But I was able to get up there, and the awesome thing to see, and this is, I actually have, because we have 39 sports, I have a little checklist on my bulletin board just to make sure I get to a practice and to a game or a match or a meet in every season for every sport. And just being able to see how much time and effort the kids and the coaches put into it, they deserve that support. They deserve to have the school behind them. And it's great to see the appreciation when I'm able to get there. And it's also great to see, how much effort that all of our kids put into it.
It's easy to be a football player or a soccer player where you got big crowds. But if you're a gymnast or a hockey player, they don't get the crowds.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're trying to boost. I know you mentioned in the open there the social media aspect. So every day we put our daily schedule out there, and hopefully that draws some attention to some of the sports that may not. Everybody goes to the Friday night football game. Everybody goes to the semifinal soccer game. But some of the more unique sports, may not get that notoriety, and we're trying to bring as much out of that as possible. Equal boys and girls sports, equal JV, freshman, varsity. We just want to make sure that everybody knows where everybody's playing, and hopefully that increases some of that attendance and enthusiasm around everything.
So what have you learned about Staples over the past year in terms of the athletes, the coaches? Is there a common denominator, or how do you describe them?
Yeah, I would say no matter what school you're at, there's a uniqueness, but there's a commonality. And I think what I've learned here at Staples is that student athletes want to be rewarded and recognized for the time and the effort that they put in to the sport. It's not easy being a student athlete. I mean, obviously Staples High School being one of the best, if not the best, academic high schools in the state, 8 to 2:45 every day. And then whether it's a practice that goes for 2.5 hours, or a game that's in Danbury and you don't get home till 9 o'clock at night, and then you still have the homework. And so having that recognition, I think, is really important for our student athletes. I see that. They put a ton of work in. There's incredible resources, obviously, in our community. But them being recognized, and that's one of the things that we've tried to do as well, is we have a Student Athlete of the Week program that we've started, recognizing our championship teams. So as much as we can to provide that support, enthusiasm, recognition for all of their hard work, I think it goes a long way. And I think that's what I've seen. The student athletes appreciate that a lot.
But I know that you also are very aware that there are plenty of kids at Staples who are not athletes, and you want, you really feel that the athletics should be part of the community, but not the only part.
Oh, absolutely. For any high school to be successful academically, extracurricular activities, there has to be something for everybody. And sports is not for everybody. It's something that we said. We started a freshman family athletic night. We did it in August this year. We'll do it again in August, coming up in the end of the summer. One of the things we say is, listen, obviously my career is in athletics, so it's very important to me, and I think we have some great offerings at Staples, but maybe that's not for you. Maybe it's the chess club. Maybe there's a club that you want to start that we don't offer right now. Find an advisor. There's that opportunity to do that, and I think the most important thing is the 4 years in high school should be the best 4 years of your life, right? I mean, we have such incredible resources and opportunities here in Westport, but you only are going to get out of it what you put into it. So don't be when I was in high school, it was don't be an 8 to 2 student. Here it's an 8 to 2:40. Don't be an 8 to 2:45 person. Get involved in your school. Get involved in clubs. Get involved in sports. Obviously, Staples players, being so successful. Whatever your interest is, there's an opportunity for you to do it. That's one of the great things, I think, about our community and our school system.
What a great philosophy.
Yeah, thanks.
John Dodig, who used to be the principal, said that a lot of schools, there's 4 A's: academics, athletics, arts, and activities. And he said, a lot of schools are good at 1 or 2 or 3 of them, and Staples really needs to be good at all 4.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we say in our coaches meetings is we should be the best. We are Westport, Connecticut. We are Westport Public Schools. We're Staples High School. We should be the best in everything that we do. We have the opportunity to do that. That's not to say that, like in sports, that we're going to win 39 state championships this year in every one of our sports, but it means that what we have in place will allow our student athletes and our programs to be successful. So I agree with that totally, that we have the best community, the best families, the best kids. So let's make sure that we're the best in everything that we could be.
So one of the elements of that is the coaches, and hiring is a big part of what you do. The people probably don't even think about, they think you just go out and get a golf coach or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you hire?
So, first thing is once we have an opening, we'll post on all of the various websites and social media channels that we can to make sure that out in the high school athletic community, everybody knows that there's an opening at Staples High School. We obviously, I said we want to be the best, so we want to have the best people, right? The most important thing that we look for as we go through the interview process is you could be the greatest X's and O's person in your sport, but that's not important if the kids don't know that you care about them. So we want to make sure that we bring in the people that are not only the best for kids, but the best for Westport kids, the best for Staples kids. So how do we do that? We open it up. We organize a committee, and the committee will look different for each opening that we have. But we generally have school staff and other coaches that are on the committee. Obviously, myself. We go through the resumes. We decide who the people that we're going to interview. Bring them in, and every opening that we have, head coach opening, will have a multiple round process. And then hopefully we end up with the best person. With that, we also started this year a survey process to include the parents' input. So anytime we have a head coach opening, we will send a survey out to our families of that sport. And what we ask them to do is rank, there's usually 15 or 16 different criteria depending on the sport, but we ask them to rank what's most important to you. Is it wins and losses? Is it the college recruiting process? Is it the way that the program is viewed in the community? So there's a variety of things. And what we do is we take those results and we base our interview questions based on those results. So the parents have the input on what questions we're going to ask, and then our committee goes through that process and tries to select the best person for our kids.
Parents, that's a huge issue in all youth sports, and there's always sort of a tension between parental input, how much they should have. Every program needs parental support.
Yep.
Sometimes it goes over the top. How do you deal with parents?
Yeah, I think there's two different ways that you could look at parental input. There are communities in our state that have little to no parental input or interest in the athletic program overall or in their specific teams. We don't have that here. I will take what we have here 100 times out of 100 over what some other communities deal with where they don't have the parental input. So our parents in Westport are interested. They're vested in the program. They care. They want the best for their kid. It's the same thing that we want. Sometimes it doesn't always merge the same way, but I think it's important, and it's one of the things that we've tried to communicate since I've been here, is that we want the best for all of our student athletes. We want the best for our programs. And sometimes, like I said, we're not in the same lane on that as far as the end result, but it's great that we could work together, that there's interest, and some of that information that we get from parents is invaluable to try to make our programs better. Ultimately, we want the best programs that we possibly could have, the best athletic program overall, and that community, that family input goes a long way with that.
And I imagine communication is important too. Communicating what you expect, what you want, what's going on.
Absolutely, it's a slide in all three of our preseason coaches meetings. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I say if you think you've communicated too much to our families, you still probably have not communicated enough. And all of our programs are in different spots with that. We've tried to implement some new tools to make it easier to communicate with families. We have a new registration system now that you could send emails right from that registration system, so you don't have to have Excel email lists and all that. Everything is right there. So we're not perfect, certainly, but I think we're better than we were a year ago, and hopefully a year from now we're going to be better than we are right now.
Student athletes, let's talk about leadership. I know that's very important to you. And I know as a former coach myself, in the beginning I thought you name a captain and he's going to be the leader. It's a lot more complicated than that.
For sure. I think that, I think it's common to say, okay, this person is going to be the captain and now they're going to lead without ever really teaching the student athlete how to lead. And I think that puts the student athlete in a difficult position. So we started a leadership council this year, and I think like with any new program, I had this idea about last year at this time about what the program was going to look like, and it probably has developed differently than what I thought, and that's okay because student athletes had some input on that as well. But the most important thing is we've had speakers come in and talk about leadership. Who
have you had?
So the Dan Swichenko, who was the former head basketball coach at Eastern Connecticut State University, a long time. I think he still has the most wins at that school as a basketball coach. He came in and he's presented at schools I've been at in the past, and he talked about when you're a captain, you're leading by example. So it's not just somebody else. Okay, you're the captain. Now you're going to come up with a list on who carries the water, who gets the med kit. You as the captain need to carry the water and carry the med kit. Is a small example of what he talked about. Matty Jackaloff, who is one of our coaches, presented on his experiences at Staples High School. He was a student athlete. Now he's a coach, and what leadership means to him. We're going to have, before the end of the school year, for our leaders that are coming back next year, specifically our fall leaders, CJ Shamus, who is leading the growth mindset initiative in our school and school system. And he's going to talk about the growth mindset and how we could build that into our student athletes. And we've had a couple other activities as well, but I think every one of those presentations, just even if a student athlete, if a leader takes a little bit from each of those, not only is it going to help them be better leaders, it's going to help them be better citizens and better people.
Big school like Staples, have you gotten to know most of the athletes or a good portion of them?
Yeah, I would say that has been the biggest challenge for me. Obviously with a school and athletic program our size, one of the things I love to do is go to the CAF during lunch waves and stand in there. And that's sometimes some of those conversations are some of the best ones that you could have, the little 30-second, 1-minute convos with student athletes. And I probably haven't done that enough or as much as I would like to. And it's going to be a focus of mine as I go forward to, you could get stuck behind your desk. You could get stuck on that email, right? But the most important thing that we do is the relationships with people and kids. And so that's one way that I like to go about it. I probably haven't done that enough, and I need to start doing a little bit better job with that. To your point, at Jonathan Law, I probably knew every student athlete individually, and we have 1,000 at Staples. So that definitely is more challenging. But as I am at more games and meet more families, I'm able to put the faces to the names and start to remember them a little bit more. Definitely more challenging. I don't know if I'll ever be perfect at 1,000 names, but it's been eye-opening, and I would say it's definitely improving in that area.
Very impressive. You mentioned the desk.
Yes.
So what does an athletic director do all day? The things that you do and the things that would surprise people that you do.
Yeah. So how much time do we have? I always laugh when people ask me that question. I say, I know I'm busy all day, but I don't know if I could really list everything, I'll start off with my assistant, Michelle Garrity, who the athletic department could not possibly run without Michelle. She's awesome. But some of the daily tasks that we do, just yesterday as an example, you come in, you think you're going to have a certain plan for the day. We found out that we had a little bus driver shortage yesterday. So now, how are we going to get kids? Can we combine this team? No, that doesn't work. Too many kids. Where's the equipment going on the bus? So we're trying to navigate that. You try not to have to cancel a sub-varsity game to make all that transportation work, but sometimes, unfortunately, it's necessary. Then a couple of pop-up meetings happen that you weren't expecting. The daily communication with the coaches is a huge piece of what we do on a daily basis. Just making sure everybody knows all the specifics of where they're going, what the plan is for the day. Confirming officials, paying officials, dealing with some long-term projects. Looking at our student athlete handbook, is it the way that is everything written the way that it's actually working out, right? Our registration system we're in April and we're getting May's next week, and we have to start our registration process for next school year. So we have to start building all of that. So a know if that directly answers your question. I could probably keep going on,
Yeah,
but
I'll give you a couple others.
yeah, go ahead.
Budgeting.
Absolutely. That's a huge piece, and that is a day-to-day and sometimes hour-by-hour process. We've put some new processes in place to try to make that budget process easier. Our central office staff, Elio, who's in the business office, Tom being the superintendent, they make the process at the beginning of the school year when we're putting the budget together very easy. And then, we work on a daily basis. We send out to the coaches well before the start of their season a 1 through 10 Google form. Please rank what you would like to purchase for next year. What are your requests for next year? And we try to make sure everybody's number one gets taken care of. And then we kind of go through and say, all right, well, uniforms, are number two, but you just got a new set 2 years ago, and we have a couple programs that haven't gotten them in 3 years. So we take all of that information. We want input from coaches, take all that info, and try to do the best that we can to make sure that all of our one of the commitment that we have is that all of our sports will have the necessary resources from the athletic department to operate their program. And then from there, with what's left, which isn't usually much, we could take a look at other things that are important to us. And there's also those last minute things that pop up. If the track team's out there and 2 javelins break in a meet, then we have to replace 2 javelins. And that, so you always have to have a little bit of that, set aside, because there's going to be emergencies that come up during the course of the seasons as well.
I had no idea that a javelin could break. I'll give you another.
Yeah.
Fields and facilities.
Absolutely. So, we have a great partnership with the Park and Rec program to make sure that obviously with the 2:45 dismissal, it becomes difficult, especially in the late fall and the early spring, for the community then to use it after our programs use the fields, because with only a couple of fields in town with lights, only one at Staples with lights, by the time our teams get out there, it's after 3 o'clock, couple hour practice. And early spring, like I said, in late fall, the sun goes down around 6:30 around there, where it becomes difficult to practice. So we want to make sure that obviously our teams have the resources necessary field wise, but also that we're good partners with the town, and we have the rec department and our youth programs use the field as well. But it's that, and this is where Michelle is key with it. She's developed a practice schedule on a Google sheet so all the coaches know where the programs are, who's using what field. We send out a daily schedule to our coaches as well, so that there's no surprises. Like, I thought I was practicing on Wakeman E today, but I see there's a freshman soccer game going on or whatever. So we try to your point from before, communicate as much as possible. The fields, it's a daily process. The rain, it adds another layer to it, because then who's using the field house? Are the grass fields closed? Who could use the turf? Can we condense practices to get more programs out there? So that's a daily juggle for sure.
I'll give you another one.
Yeah.
Discipline.
So I'm going to knock on wood. I don't know if there's wood around. Let's go right here. We're very fortunate here in my 13, 14 months here that our student athletes really represent the program well. What we say is we want our student athletes and our coaches, when they put this logo on, that they're going to represent our school and our community better than the school that we're playing represents their school and their community. That this
competition. It's a competition.
Absolutely. Like, right or wrong, how student athletes and coaches perform and behave at sporting events and in the community goes a long way on how people feel about a town and a school. And, there's a responsibility that comes with being a student athlete. When the unfortunate situations happen where some discipline occurs, the 3 important things. Number one, that we, follow our rules and procedures and policies, that we allow the student athlete and their family the opportunity to, kind of give their side of what happened. And from there, that we're fair and consistent in if discipline happens. So, like I said, we're fortunate. We haven't had a lot of those situations so far since I've been down here. But as long as we stay in or maintain those 3 important pieces when we look at it, then we try to have the discipline, but then we move on. okay, if we don't have another issue, listen, we're dealing with 14 to 18-year-olds. There's going to be mistakes. That's part of being a high school student and a high school student athlete. They're going to make mistakes. As I say, I make mistakes every single day, and I'm far from being 14 to 18. So the most important thing is that we help them learn from their mistakes and we move on.
One area where mistakes can be made is social media. And we talked before about what you've done in terms of social media presence, and it's been great. Kids, athletes, and fans chirp a lot on social media. How do you handle that?
It's really a couple ways. First is information before a season starts. Here's the appropriate way to utilize social media. It's great to be enthusiastic when you win, but there's a difference between being enthusiastic about our success and rubbing it in somebody's face. Or, now with Instagram, as I'm learning, my wife got me hooked up with the Instagram, which is very popular down here. But, you add lyrics. Well, are the lyrics appropriate to the post that you're putting on there? And so we try to get as much information to our student athletes about that ahead of time. But then when situations pop up where maybe we don't make the right decisions, that we talk it through and say, hey, listen, here's how the other school viewed this post. A lot of times it's not malicious. A lot of times it's, I didn't realize that the other school or the other person would view the post in this way. So it's that education piece. It's that, hey, listen, just think about it from this point of view or their point of view. And hopefully that, we don't make the same mistake again.
So the toughest part of your job and the most rewarding?
I would say toughest part of the job is that when I drive in from home every morning and I have an idea of what my day is going to be, it is never that way. When it's just the size of the program, right? When you have 1,000 student athletes, 39 programs, things are going to pop up during the course of the day that you didn't expect. And, but at the same time, you better make sure the buses are there. You better make sure the officials are there. That the fields are set and everything. So it's that daily juggling act. I've been doing I've been in this in the job for 18 years, at a couple different schools. So I think I'm better at that now. But there are some days, yesterday I'm thinking as one that it's a little bit more difficult than another day. But that's part of it. The most rewarding part for sure is to see how excited our kids are to represent Staples. There's a great pride in their high school. There's a great pride in the athletic program overall and in their individual teams. And when they have success, just how pumped up that they are. This fall, we had the football and field hockey state championships. Just to see that, the excitement is, it's just, and that even comes with when we have a tough loss, and our student athletes are crushed by a playoff loss or whatever. That shows how much they care, how much pride there is in the school, and that just makes me know that when I come to work every day, I'm coming to a great place, and and that I can't wait to get there.
So I guess the last question, a lot of people who are watching this may not be Staples athletics supporters or fans or know anything about it. What's your message to the community in terms of Staples sports?
My message to everybody in Westport is that we take, and I think I've said it before, we take great pride in what we do, and we want to represent, our families, our school district, and our town the right way. So win, lose, or draw on the field or in the pool or on the basketball court, the most important thing that we can do is represent our town the right way, and that success in that area is going to lead to success in competition. So we take great pride in that. We'll continue to take great pride in that. Where we slip up, we'll correct it. But we want everybody in town to be proud of Staples student athletes and programs as we are.
Sounds good. Last question.
Yeah.
If you had one recommendation, you could go to see one event that sort of symbolizes Staples athletics. Could you pick one?
Wow. I think I would get in trouble if I picked just one. So I would just, what I would say is that we're in the spring season now. Just take a walk on campus one day. Start at, when you pull into Staples, go to the right, start at Ginny Parker, walk your way up and all the way up to past Bedford and up to Wakeman, and just see the energy, the excitement, the number of activities, that we talked about before that we offer our student athletes. And I think if you haven't had the chance to do that, and you'll come away very impressed.
And then don't miss the tennis course, the golf course.
Absolutely.
Or Long Island Sound for the sailing team.
Absolutely. And if anybody needs directions, reach out and we'll send you the right way.
Sounds good. VJ Sarullo, the athletic director at Staples High School. Thanks for being on 06880, the podcast.
This was great. Thanks, Dan.